Now more than ever, innovative technologies are fueling change and sparking new ways of thinking. Collaboration between corporations and startups is key to staying at the forefront of these trends. However, finding the right startups can be expensive, time-consuming, and ineffective. But Plug and Play is here to help. As a corporate partner, you will gain access to a whole ecosystem of innovation. Discover startups that meet your tech interests. Stay updated on the latest trends and network with industry peers. We will help you during every stage of your innovation journey, no matter where you are and where you want to go. Get in touch today.
This, what we're going over is our start to finish type of program, our Nature's Bio-K, but I'll give you a little bit of my bio here. I've worked in the ag industry for 11 years, 9 of which at Nature's Alpine. I've worked in the U.S. and Canada, growing many diverse crops. I grew up on a family farm in West Central Minnesota. I've been in agronomy sales and have helped develop plants for growers to better utilize input strategies and improve yields, farm income, and use of fertilizer more efficiently and environmentally safe. I also represent Nature's Alpine on the Minnesota Crop Protection Retailers Board as the plant food member. I am presently the district sales manager of the Red River Valley in Minnesota, North Dakota for Nature's Alpine, which is based in Marion, Ohio. And just to continue, about 2 years ago, our company was purchased by Wilbur Ellis, based in California, and now I technically work under their broad general Wilbur Ellis company, not the ag side, but just the entire corporation. So let's get started. About our company, we've been doing premium liquid fertilizer since 1946. We have 7 production facilities in North America. The closest one to where I live is Garrett's in South Dakota, which is north of Sioux Falls, about 10 miles. And then we have 2 in Canada, New Hamburg, Belle Plaine. Belle Plaine is right next to a Yara and a Nutrien or Agrium plant. And the latest technologies to maximize crop potentials. We've been known as the innovator in this industry. We were one of the founding members of the 31818s, the 918-9s, the 624-6. We developed all that many years ago. We still sell some of that stuff, but we have essentially evolved into using a little better materials that we've seen have greater agronomic benefits. But Nature's has different flexible applications. In-furrow, obviously, banded, fertigation through pivots and dry and drip lines down in the south. Strip till and side dress applications as well as foliar, which we've been doing for many years. Our technologies, our Bio-K is our potassium-based products that we now run with that technology, which I'll get into. Rhizolink is our products that have growth, essentially biologicals. Aquatech, which is it has polymers in there that allow for when you're working with hard water, it doesn't tie it up. And if anybody knows drip lines and things like that, hard water can bind everything up over time. And we are one of the original for our companies. We started it at the very beginning, right source, right rate, right time, right place. But we've been doing that for as long as the company started. But the scientific principles, and if anybody has questions, please stop me at any time. Like I said, I would like this to be as informal as possible. Usually when we're with a group of people, we can do it a lot easier than that. When you're doing presentation of a teams type of situation, it's just a little harder for people to get involved. But if there's any questions at any time, feel free to do that. And at the very end, I will have a spot for questions, and I'll have my email and phone number if you want to get more in depth or have different questions about different crops and things like that. I am always open to those types of scenarios. So recognizing root soil dynamics, manage spatial variability, and limit potential off-field transports of nutrients, to waterways and things like that. But a 2x2 look or set is pretty much two below the seed, two to the side. There's also a conceal, which has been an extremely popular application through precision, as a 3x1 application, and I have some very progressive growers using large amounts of fertilizer through that application. Obviously in furrow, which is under the seed. We'll get into that a little bit more. Surface banded and deep banding. Not all fertilizers, I'll say, are the same. I mean, you can get, the one on the left looks like humic acid, and the right looks like a green 624-6, which is a purified form of 1034-0 with potash. But like I said, people look at numbers and believe they're all the same just because the analysis represents it. That is far from the case. In a lot of scenarios, and I'll use 1034-0 as an example because this tends to be the biggest issue. 1034-0 is a clay-based material, which is, the clay is put in the manufacturing process to keep it in suspension. Nature's is all a solution, but the suspension has the clay in there, which will eventually fall out. And on the bottom of a tank, if anybody's ever seen it, it'll have sludge and clay characteristics, as well as sometimes you get a black greenish type color of 1034-0, and that means that you're getting a byproduct from the industrial age. There's some places, and I don't like to name certain companies, but there are companies that do paint and things like that, where they will move some of that and somehow it will get into the ag line. And if you get a black appearing 1034-0, you are getting a industrial based heavy metals, extremely poor variation of super phosphoric acid. These are all different types of fertilizers, and you can see the variations, that some are good, some are bad, some are just, I mean, you wouldn't even want to put it in a planter, as it would plug things. And you don't want to put high volumes of metals and things like that go into the soil and never come out, and they will not come out once they're there, like nickel and things like that. That's there to stay. And I've seen growers at times what they have extra stuff, and they will use, and it's 1034-0, and they will spray it on the top of their fields to get rid of it. And they're putting that into their soil when they know it's a problem, and they'll buy the next year the same thing because of price. But if you know it's a poor product, looks like a poor product, it's probably a bad product. So now we'll get into a little bit more of the physiology of it, but nature's products are all based as orthophosphate based. So I'll put it in the best form as possible. A polyphosphate is a 1034-0 based product, and that's a super phosphoric acid base. And what that means is 1034-0 is a 70% poly, 30% ortho. The orthophosphate is immediately available to the plant. A poly is not. The poly has to be broken down over time, over heat, and view it as this. Orthophosphate is a chain link. The chain link can be available to the plant. Polyphosphate is a total chain. The polyphosphate, because of a chain, it needs to be broken. So any part of a poly cannot be broken until time and weather and heat. And as it can't be broken, it's not available to the plant. So our ortho-based is available, and poly needs time and takes time. And that's the biggest difference in those. But nearly all nature's products are 100% ortho. base products, which are all immediately available to the plant. And sometimes I can throw people off that aren't aware from here. So if there's any questions, like I said, slow me down and I will get more in depth or answer them as need be. I guess we got some pictures of cheese, but I use a chain length, but that's kind of an easier adaptation. Ensure that the right source, ensure a balanced supply of essential nutrients. The biggest part of that is balance. I've seen testing, and we've done them where our straight BioK will beat our balanced products, say like a triple option, which is a 4-13-17-1 with BioK. The biggest part is to have a balanced fertilizer that will get to all aspects of it, because the fertilizer is a synergistic effect and you need everything working as one, because over time a balanced product will always beat a specific product. Apply plant available forms, soil physical and chemical properties, recognize synergisms among nutrient elements and sources, blend compatibility, associated nutrient and non-elements. This is some testing we did in 2015 of critical levels of K. And North Dakota said 16, Minnesota says 47, and Wisconsin 65, 63 in Michigan. I know this one is not necessarily as correct as the next one I'll show you, but potash levels have been stripped to lows that we've never seen, because corn, essentially corn, we'll use as the base for most of crops, because this takes a large amount of fertilizer to produce grain, and they're not necessarily fertilizing for the yields that they're pulling. This is done in 2012, and I see this one is a little greater of a piece. This is removal, and red and orange and yellow means low potassium tests, and where the removal rates are going out so fast that in the red critical areas, and even the yellow is worse, because they're pulling it off and they're not putting it back. And that's what we've seen in a lot of the dragging with soybean yields, I think, is due to this reason, because there are a lot of growers are just fertilizing at one point for corn and leaving beans as the redheaded stepchild, essentially, in a way. They don't treat them the way they need to be. They just think they're scavengers and they can grind through, and that's why the yields of soybeans have been so stagnant, essentially, for the last 20 some years, but corn has moved up exponentially. It's because they're not treating it as they need to. And this is just a map of where the potassium-bearing rocks are. Our main suppliers of liquid PPA, purified phosphoric acid, which we make all our clears 100% orthos with, and the SPA, which is the base 1034O, and 20% of our 624-6 is from all these types of rocks, and we get from Nutrien and Simplot, our two largest suppliers. But there's been some issues with logistics these last couple of years, with just plants going down because of COVID type of deals, rail because of that, where they're not running. I mean, and as oil prices have skyrocketed here, rail is used more in that type of in oil transportation, because there's more money in it and things like that, which has increased transportation, trucking with fuel prices going up has went up immensely. I am aware that Syngenta, major mason manufacturing, has now put in rates of just literally surcharges on transportation, which they've never done before, and that's just because the price of fuel and everything has got so hard, and trucking and finding people to drive the trucks is really at an all-time high. So it just caused a little more of a fracture in in getting the fertilizer to where the end user at the end of the day. And we're going to talk a little bit about a few things, and this is the main cog of our company's lines, and it is our BioK. It is this is our straight 0024 K fuel is what we call it. It is straight potassium acetate. This is Nature's is a massive industrial company. We do large amounts of runway de-icer, and what we learned was years ago we've been using K fuel as in its base form of 0048 as runway de-icer because it has a very low salt content, which doesn't hurt planes and things like that. So they like it for its low corrosiveness, and it has an extremely low freeze point. Well, actually, I think it's -50 or something like that, which it won't freeze. So obviously, you're using it as de-icer on runways, so it can be used at any time in North America, wherever. But what we learned about this, and I'll get into this a little bit more, is that the potassium acetate, because of that small molecule, just gets in the plant easier, more efficiently, and we've seen massive benefits in agriculture. And I sell 1.5 million gallons in my region. Of the 1.5, I'd say 70% of that has a BioK element into that. So we are moving large amounts of this because of the massive benefits we are seeing in ag. But what is BioK? It's an inorganic potassium salt plus organic acid, the most soluble form of potassium available. This acetate molecule is preferred food source for microbiology, supports production of plant energy, a precursor for primary and secondary metabolites. This is just a kind of from a article, just talks about in-furrow, place starter just has higher yielding corn, and we have seen every year higher yield, drier, all of the above. And this was a channel seed post since probably approximately 90% of the potassium soil is not available to the plant or to the corn plant. Potassium fertilizers are needed to maintain goals. We need them available and there to the plant, because what the soil test, it's not available. It's tied up through mag and so many different variables on pH of soil. That's kind of what it is. We're finding that it says it's there, but really isn't available. This just talks about partnering with the plant, nitrogen, works with all these. We could go through them all, but essentially what the best way it is, the plant, it's a barrel, and it needs all of which to be able to hit top end yield, and they all work together. Everything works together. I mean, look at this. They all work in accordance to each other. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction, so it has to work with each other. This is Mulder's chart. Just shows the crossing of each piece of micros and macros, that they all work in a synergistic effect together to maximize and get in the plant and make that the best possible form. Essentially, there we go. Sorry, I couldn't read half of it, but acetate as a food source for plants. I could give you the complex form, but I'll give you the easy one. Acetyl-CoA is in BioK, and because acetyl-CoA is in BioK, it doesn't have to make it. So it's able to skip the cycle, and it's involved in the big Krebs cycle system, but it's because of that it's in there. It can skip the cycle. It doesn't have to make it, so it moves along faster, is essentially the easiest way to understand it. This just shows acetate uptake by corn roots is rapid. It's immediate. It's like no other potassium-based product we've seen, and we'll show a little bit more about that. just potassium uptake and removal rates. I don't believe people know how much uptake. Look at alfalfa, 600 pounds an acre, corn, 266. It's actually more uptake than nitrogen, but people are not aware of all of this. A lot of it is returned back to the soil because it's in, the stock and, things like that. But there is tons of soybeans, 205 to get 60 bushel beans. I mean, this is real, and people have been underestimating it for a long time. That's why soybean yields, in my opinion, have not been where they need to be and where we want to be. This shows peaks of K throughout the season, D12, right before we get to reproductive state. That's where it improves, in stock height and things like that. We just have to get more K into the plant. That is the biggest key. We're not getting enough because the K drives more phosphate in the plant and makes the nitrogen work way, way better. We have seen in certain testing that we've dropped nitrogen pounds because we're driving more K into those plants that make the nitrogen more available. And that's the biggest key. This is just kind of where phosphorus uptake comes and how it goes. The biggest part, and I kind of will break this part down, is in the first 25 days, the corn plant takes up just as much nitrogen as it does potassium. And like with a 1034O based product, and I'm not trying to rip 1034O or nothing like that, but I just want to say a balanced product is far superior to a phosphate based product that you actually only get 30% of that phosphate immediately because it's a polyphosphate. Many of the benefits you would notice with a 1034O is from the nitrogen kick. You notice it's darker. It's because the massive amounts of nitrogen you're putting in it. It's still missing and needing potash, and more phosphate for that example, because it's not all available to the plant.
Kevin,
And
I
go ahead.
think Soon Work has a question. Did you want to ask your question? Sangwoo? Maybe they don't have a question anymore. Okay, I think we can keep going.
Okay. Nitrogen and sulfur boron is mobile in the soil, somewhat immobile, which is nearly all of it. Potassium, calcium, and mag, and very immobile. It needs phosphate and a couple things. This is what we call our blue juice. And this is finish line. This is an 846 with fulvic acid, a couple micros. We spray this for all foliar applications with herbicides, fungicides. We use this as a carrier because of the BioK and the fulvic acid. But I'll go a little bit greater into this acetate. When Power Max, the Roundup rain fast went from an hour to 15 minutes. There was only one difference: acetate. They moved acetate into that mix, which drove the Roundup into the plant. The glyphosate, it drove it more in the plant. So the rain fast dropped 45 minutes just because of one key thing: acetate. This was a foliar test that was done on a pivot down in Texas. And you can see the line where the application of finish line was made and where it wasn't. So why do farmers use in-furrow starters? Quick, even emergence, larger root systems, which helps gobble up and acquire more of the nutrients that are in the soil. Fertilizer is placed in the ground with the seed. Soil test is not required, which I always recommend soil tests for everyone. Find out what's tying it up, what's heavy in certain things, and the biggest thing I think is pH and CECs to find out what's in there, but what is tied up. And that's what we've seen is things that are tied up that you can't factor. Like I said, anytime anybody has a question, just pop up and I'll stop and we'll go over them. Why are Nature's in-furrow starters the best option? They're seed safe. High products that have high salt contents can damage seed, things like that. A balanced NPK orthophosphate with BioK based formulations. Low salt, non-corrosive. If people know 1034O, and I use 1034O because that's kind of what everybody understands, we'll take out pumps. It's extremely corrosive. I mean, you put a brand new planter, use 1034O, you don't wash that off every day, it'll start corroding that brand new planter, which people talk about pricing and what is worth that. If your planter is rusted, that's worth tons of money, you know. And it's a true solution. All of ours is a true solution. Like I told you before, 1034O is a suspension. It is a true solution. We have bottles that a co-worker of mine worked for 50 years for Nature's, was from 1991. He gave them to me about 3 years ago. They've been sitting out in his shop, actually his garage, and has not been heated for 30 plus years. And the only thing that looked discolored was the actual bottle. I dumped it out into a glass, and it was still clear and had not fallen out yet. That was 30 some years, and it was 989, I believe, was the product. Just to show that, and he just wanted to show me the Nature's emblem back in the early 90s, just to show it to me, be like, this is how long I've had this. We have a dedicated supportive staff. We have agronomists all over the country. We got a very large workforce. Why are they the best option? Carriers for EDTAs and crop protection products. EDTAs are sequestered micronutrients that you need. 100% EDTAs in all our high ortho products, or else you'll have a major catastrophe. They're ammoniated zincs that are far cheaper made. They're made essentially very easily and cheap, and they charge a large amount for them, but they're not sequestered. They're not individual where the plant can uptake them. But I'll get a little deeper about EDTA. 70% of all EDTAs in the United States come out of China. And we are backlogged massively this year on EDTAs. We had shipments that were scheduled for December, and we received them in July. So we're extremely backed up. It's tight. And then actually, we had sourced some from another company down in Texas in springtime. And when you guys remember when you had the big freeze out in Texas, where essentially the state shut down, that went upside down because the plants all shut down. They blew pipes, literally. So we had other EDTA sourced from those locations, but they were not available because the plants essentially broke down and we couldn't get them shipped because the pipes broke, shut down. They had no power for weeks. So we had to use different options. Increased efficiency. It's right in the furrow. You can get the plant can acquire it. Using zinc, 35%. It's very dry. I mean, you'll see the zinc in the shelter belts because it just blows away in a broadcast scenario. Clean, easy handling situations and extremely high solubility and a neutral pH. Storability as well. We can overwinter that stuff inside, overwinter, but it cannot freeze because that will fall apart. Safe again. Efficiency improves plant health and stress under heat situations. This year is a great example. Potassium is a natural defense mechanism and helps move water up and through the plant. And because it was so dry, the dry broadcast was not able to break down. So people that use liquid forms of fertilizer this year were far better equipped to this situation. I still have, I had growers sending me maps from satellite imagery, and the liquid versus the dry was far superior just because it was so dry early that the dry fertilizer wasn't able to break down where it was soluble to the plant. Reduces water loss, increases photosynthesis, and a balanced nutrition. The Nature's BioK story. It is patented. problem is declining K levels, lack of K availability, declining quality, stress, effects. Okay, more money available to the plant. This is the base, in all products. Like I said, potassium acetate, the actual form is 0048. These are some different products that we have used. Hot carb, potassium thiosulfate. To look at solubility in temperatures, acetate is at the far leader in that. Solubility, here we go. In this 2.5 fluid ounces of water, that much potassium acetate can be completely saturated with it and become a liquid form. It would take that much water in each one of that, in that small amount, to actually make that into a solution that would be available to the plant. It just shows the solubility of it. This was a foliar absorption done in 1986 of driving it in the plant. And as I talked to you and spoke to you about the acetate technology and WeatherMax, this is also what we're doing. We're doing this on soybeans massively, corn, trying to push yields, add test weight, kernel depth. And like for one example on sugar beets, we're using BioK to carry boron into the plant, using a pint of boron with a gallon of BioK, driving the boron into the plant. We've seen increases of 1% sugar because of that. So we've done some different things. Point of deliquescence, what that means is relative humidity for the K to actually uptake it. It only has to be 23% to get nature's BioK in there, versus all the other form has to be extremely high humid to get into the plant. So our corn program base is 5 gallons of Impulse triple option, or first down a new product with Crop Max, which is a micro product that has about a pint of zinc per quart with mag, copper, you name it, it's got it in it. Just for micro packs, we've seen a synergistic effect with micros, but the plants are needing all these to be able to maximize yields. And I'll just go through this. Impulse is a 10-18-4, 100% ortho. First down is a 7-18-6, 100% ortho. Triple option a 4-13-17-1, 100% ortho. That is the best product I have. That has a freezing capacity of -30. It's what my brother uses on his farm, because as with West Central Minnesota, we have found the mag is tying up potassium, and we're potassium. We are short on potassium. We need more. Then that's what we're using a lot. It's just because we are seeing mag is tying up the potassium, and we're getting more potassium in the plant, which is just making it a healthier plant and helping drive more phosphate into that plant. Side dress application with UAN, 28%. We're using K-Fuse and K-Flex, depending on the rates, but those are both BioK based products, just to help drive more potassium into the plant with nitrogen, because it makes it more useful and efficient. But we're running out of potash, is kind of what it is. And using different boron, different applications, as I spoke about before. Foliar program, all of our programs go with finish line as the base, just to help make that chemical work better, get in the plant for better kills. But we've been increasing yields with using K-Fuel and triple option as applications with that, because we're feeding it. And as we're feeding it, we're also feeding the weeds to help kill them better, because that's what we're seeing. We also, weeds, just like fertilizer, just as much as are the plants we're trying to increase yields on. Nature's Impulse is our BioK. That's what I'm going to talk about the most. I'm just going to kind of go over as one product, just because we have some third company data on this. 100% ortho, easy, quick emergence, and that is the analysis. 3 years of trials over the years, equipment, seed companies are using our fertilizer. This is precision planting of their furrow jet #1. I won't go through it all, but We have been number one for, I think, 3 years running against all of them. Number one. There's more of exactly what is their testing. And like I said, this is precision planting. Everything they have is to a T. This is not ours. This is third party, and they have no horse in the race to make ours look better than anybody else's. And the 6-gallon rate was the moneymaker, the highest return. Just because you're putting it in furrow, you're getting it there, you're getting it to the plant where it needs it to be. This is a Beck's test, proven, best ROI over 3 years. Like I said, this is all third-party data, and I have my own, and it's quite immense. But I don't have the sheet for it, but we have a new product that we developed. It's a 477. It's called Balance. It has cobalt, moly, and boron in it. And what we've learned about this is, and why we developed it, was cobalt and boron help with nitrogen manufacturing and distribution, and then the moly regulates it. On the right picture, that's these are edible beans, but it was a picture that wasn't ours, but this came from the grower. And on the right side is the balance and triple option 50-50. The triple option is a 4-13-17-1, but it's balance and triple option on the right. On the left, it's straight triple option. The size, and that's not our picture, that's a farmer's picture, just to show you what it's doing in the nitrogen manufacturing and distribution. Here's another picture of just a blend, but all the fields we've seen are looking like this, and this is moving to my new product. What we do is a 50-50 of the triple option, the 4-13-17-1 in balance. We go 50-50. I'm moving large gallons of this just because, like I said, we're trying to treat soybeans like we can make money on them, and you can, and that's the problem. And that's where I've got the biggest benefits of talking to people, is people talk about corn, but they're not really working on soybeans, and where we have to be concentrating on the things that we've been lacking. And this blend is a fantastic blend. But with in-furrow products on soybeans, that's just not the beginning. The biggest part about in-furrow on beans and how you treat them, you have to make them pay for itself and make money, is you have to foliar feed them after you already start babying them. When you give them some crop nutrition, give it more. So early base foliar program, when you're spraying Roundup or whatever you're doing, I mean, there's so many different things that are going on now. A base of Finish Line and triple option or K-Flex or K-Fuel 0024 straight BioK on every application. We've noticed that just because it helps everything work better, and you're continuously babying that plant along to increase yields. More soybeans. We, in our precision planting test this year, we did some babying along. We're seeing 4 pods or 4 beans per pods. That's not normal, and we're doing something, and we continuously keep on working with these companies we're partnering with to make sure that we can try to increase these yields. Late foliar application around R3, K-Fuel or triple option with Finish Line and a fungicide. We've increased germ for people doing production, greater size beans, everything. It's just been a fantastic program for us, and we're getting more and more people involved. But like I said, when you start babying beans along, you have to foliar apply them to really get the bang out of the buck, to really push them to top end yields.
Kevin, we have a question here from Kent. So for the side dress system you described, how important is it to get solution in the ground? Y drop and others are dribbling on the soil surface.
From what I have seen, the problem, so with 28 using UAN, you can get the nitrogen somewhat in there, but like, for example, this year, well, the biggest problem with that is West Central Minnesota and the Valley for the years here, last few years, it's been so wet, you can't get in there, one. So the problem is if things are bad, you can't get in there. But 2, for when you Y drop it, I think the effectiveness of it goes down considerably. I bet by 30% from not getting it into the ground, because you're going to still need you're going to need rain and things to go in there. And if say you're mixing it with a potassium-based product, potassium doesn't move. So the Y drops are not near as effective as putting it into the ground, knifing it in, for example. The Y drop is not near as effective, in my opinion. I actually think I think it's better to actually foliar apply than Y dropping it, in my opinion. And that's what I think. But we'll get some differing opinions on that. But I've watched it and I've seen it, and I just don't think it gets in there as much as you need. And if it gets dry or anything, that nitrogen will volatilize and go right in the sky, and you're not getting it anyways. So you have to get it into the ground to protect it. Did that help answer that?
Yes, very much. Thank you.
Yep. And this is just a program we have offer JDF, because we're getting to the end of the segment, because I didn't want to get any deeper because I'll lose you guys. And like I said, we just have JDF just because I want to show this, but I was going to get into this now. This will just talk about some pricing and how things work here. I don't want to give you actual pricing. I'm just going to tell you what we are traditionally. So this year versus last year, we are 24% higher year over year. Spring will be 25% higher than it is right now, if not higher. October 1 is a quarterly paid bond, or a quarterly change in pricing from our KOH distributors, which is potassium hydroxide, which is the benchmark for liquid potassium-based pricing. There will be a significant increase October 1. Micros are in tight supply. 70% of EDTAs come from China. I spoke about that earlier. Currently, there's a small difference in pricing in liquid versus dry. And when I say that, the wholesalers that sell to us, they like to have a little premium in their spread. But right now, it's real tight versus the dry. But I think they're going to try to push a little premium on that to make sure that the dry people are still, getting a little bit more pricing. I can't really try to put the best word on it, but they like to have a little premium there. And right now it's not, but I think they will. All green products, 1034, are extremely tight. Our 624-6 has some green in it. That is tight. Our actually shipments last week, we had to shop the plant, not because we don't have enough. The problem is we're moving 40 trucks a day out of the one plant, which is 180,000 gallons a day. You go 6 straight, that's 1 million. We are moving it out faster than we can actually produce it. So like I said, that's why it's so tight. We have product, but when you have 40 trucks a day at 180,000 gallons of straight product, you can't, no matter how fast and how big your reactors are, you cannot make it fast enough. You just can't. Now the big picture, I've been here for 9 years, versus 8 years ago, we are only 6% higher than we were in that time frame. So the big scheme of things, we're really not that much higher than when I first started. 6%, that's not even more than cost of living increase in all reality. My thoughts are get your tanks full as soon as possible because things are tight. I sold 1.5 million gallons last year. By the end, and our fiscal year starts August 1. By the end of September, I will be at 1.2 million gallons shipped because I pressed everybody to take it because it's going to be so fast. And people that are Johnny on the spot are going to be paid big time by having the product because pricing will go up. That's what's going to happen. And trucks are in tight supply. Like I talked about Syngenta having price surcharges on shipping just because trucks are tough to find. Truckers are, to be honest with you, I don't want to get political and I'm not, but with all the money that's going out to these people, there's people that are not working that need to be, and trucks are some of those. So they're in tight supply. So like I said, we're trucking as much as we can because it is an issue. Now, this is my email, my phone number, and any questions you guys had, hack at it.
Kevin, we do have another question from Kent. And so the next one is for foliar app of K Fuse and K Flex, 2 gallons an acre in corn, would you need a lot of carrier water? They're developing a robot for in-season apps, so thinking about payload.
Yes, we've done some, and I'll use by planes. I mean, the problem is when you're putting chemicals and things like that down, I mean, if you're going to put like a foliar, and which a foliar would be K Flex or K Fuel. It might have said K, so I'm not sure, but K Flex, when you're putting a chemical with it, like a fungicide, you need gallons in there because you need coverage, one, and well, you need to get it on the plant, and you need water to get the plant wet where it'll take it up. But yeah, you're still going to need, for everything to work properly, you could probably get away with, if you just did straight that, if you're not putting a chemical, 3-4 gallons. But the big thing is when you're using chemicals and fungicides, you need the water to get the greater coverage. And when you start putting in fertilizers at low rates or at high rates versus with chemicals, you have FUBARs, because not enough water is always your friend in those scenarios. So that tends to be the problem. If it's going by itself, you can, but when you're putting chemicals and, like I said, herbicides, fungicides, insecticides, without water, you're going to have problems, just because in our reality, you need 12 gallons total, in my opinion. We've done things with planes at 3 to 4, but you be using top end products. Generics are not the option then, because that's when you're going to have your FUBARs.
Makes sense. Thank you.
Yep.
Hey, Kevin, this is Evan Stone with Grandall. First off, thank you for your presentation. I'm very familiar with Nature's and been associated with those products for a lot of years. 2020 and 2021 in conventional fertilizer has been an interesting year, to say the least, with demand issues and pricing that followed. It sounds to me like from a couple of your slides, y'all have been able to mitigate the inflation cost, or the inflated cost of your products. I'm curious to hear from you how growers are they becoming more receptive to non-traditional fertility programs through specialty products like this, or what are you seeing happening on the ground floor with the grower?
I tell you, that's a great question. To be honest with you, it's the right grower. The growers that are, and I'll use one grower in particular. He called me this morning, and they use a very large amount of our products. They are a progressive farmer. They are using precision planting. And the biggest part is what I've learned as the baby boomers are retiring and they're still involved in the farming, involved in making decisions. They're telling their children that they have to look for different practices. They know that they're not getting things done the way they need to, because they're thinking, and how I talked about soybeans, that's exactly the words that his father told me. He's like, why are yields the same or falling even? So they're seeing it, and as it's getting implemented and changed, where they're using the youth there that will help adapt it into their system. Because the older the person, they don't want to change the system and they don't feel comfortable with the equipment. But as the younger people are getting more involved in running planners and things like that, they are getting more involved in that. And as they're passing the torch down, they are more open in all reality to move, because they have somebody that can show them how to run the planner, or they're running the planner. That is the biggest part. But I will say this, I've had more conversations about this exact scenario, about liquid and doing things different, in the last 2 years than I did the last 7 prior to it combined. Yes, they're looking for something different.
It makes a lot of sense. So when you've got a product that has kind of a story behind it, right? I mean, without a story, nobody's ever just going to wake up one day and go, I need some Nature's BioK, right? How is Nature's addressing, or is there any innovative ideas out there right now that are helping deliver that story to growers in a more technologically advanced manner rather than a farm visit and, buying a lunch and the old way of doing things?
This is a good question. This is what we've had in conversations with the upper management. And what we found is, we've done the traditional, when we do go out to farmers, and we've seen that tends to be the best, but actually what tends to be the best is honestly that in going out to them and going to the right growers that I spoke about, because we've done the farm shows. In the 8 years I've done a farm show, or well, 9 years total, and obviously last year we didn't, I sold one transport of fertilizer during 3 shows a year for 8 years. One.
Yes.
That isn't getting to them. And what we've done, and we're trying to do more, and we are not good at it yet. Trust me, we are bad at it. Actually, all companies are bad at it. We are using Twitter more. We are using pictures more. We are going out and having talks and doing that, like Facebook Live and things like that. That's what we're having more benefits with, because the people are out looking for it. But the traditional ways of getting to the farmer are not. I use the one farmer, Mitch Ronhavi, is the guy, West Central Minnesota, a fantastic farmer. And he came searching us, and he looked online and found some, I think, YouTube videos and talked, but we'd already sold him, Nature's Gold 624-6 for years, but he was looking for something different. And I don't know what came across it, but he came across something on Twitter or some social media point, and he's like, "What's BioK? Why aren't we using that to his distributor?" Because some of these distributors like to sell the basic products that are easy to sell. You don't have to talk about it, but they're looking. But we are using social media and been the most effective with that, and selecting certain things, going to specific shows. Farm Progress Show has been successful for us. What's the main one? The
Commodity Classic.
The Commodity Classic. We are massive things. We are going to locations where farmers want to be and want to learn. That's where we're going. We're not going to, I don't want to name names, but I'll name one. The Corn Fest, or whatever, the Dakota Fest, which all we do is hand out pens and little flashlights to people that don't give a crap, that aren't talking about anything, that aren't looking for those reasons. And I'll use my brother as a perfect example. My brother doesn't go to those because he doesn't want to be around all the people that really aren't looking for a better solution. They're going to look at machinery, going to talk to their neighbor. They're not looking to talk to companies that are trying to benefit them. They're just, they're lethargic to it. And like I said, specific meetings, we are having better benefits of getting people that want to be to places, having coffee, talking about this, do a presentation like this. Has been far more, but you have to pick and choose where you're at, and social media is the biggest one, especially getting to young progressive farmers. And precision planting has been a massive boost to us, getting on their acre, let them do the testing, and let them talk about our products as they've been successful. Let them do it for us as we have been successful, but we're not trying to sell it to them, but they're using the testing and they're talking about how our products have been good to use and we've been successful in increasing yield.
Cool. Thanks for your feedback, Kevin. Appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you very much, Kevin. Thank you everyone else for joining in today. We appreciate you.
Yep. And anybody wants to email me, feel free, and I can go into more depth about other crops and things like that, but I just try to keep it as simple as I could. And I thank you guys for anything else. And like I said, I appreciate your time.
Thank you, everyone. Have a great day.